The title of my message tonight is called this: Prepare Your Heart. Prepare your heart. And if you've got a Bible, you can turn to Matthew 13, and we'll read that in a moment, kind of bookmark that in a moment. We're going to read Matthew 13, but let me read this verse from 2 Chronicles 12 and verse 14. And this verse is about a king called King Rehoboam. It's the name of my next child, Rehoboam. And I like saying it like that. That's a good ring. Rehoboam. Everyone say it. Go. See, it just feels nice, doesn't it? And 2 Chronicles 12 and verse 14 talks about him, and it says this: he did evil because he had not set his heart on seeking the Lord. He did evil because he had not set his heart on seeking the Lord. And then let's read the first 9 verses of Matthew 13. It says this: the same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. I don't know if you know this, but a little bit of a lesson here for you tonight. Why did Jesus go out on a boat to the lake? Because actually the water kind of echoed his voice, and so everyone could hear what he was saying. I didn't know that until I was thinking about this message, and I just read things like that and go, why? So I asked myself the question, and so I Google it. There are other good, web search providers out there. Maybe not. While all the people stood on the shore, then he told them many things in parables or stories, saying this: a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell among the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. If you're from Derbyshire, we're there. He who has ears, let him hear. There's too many H's in that sentence there, isn't there? Too many H's. My dad would struggle with that one. I don't know if you've got friends like I have, but I got some friends who are planners. Anyone with me? They've got planners, people who plan kind of everything. 3 of us are going to be honest in this place tonight. And we got those friends who plan everything out. And they prepare for everything. They've got maybe they've got budgets for everything. They've got bank accounts for every single little thing. Like, they got the boiler bank account, and they've got the if the roof leaks bank account, and they've got all of these things. They're prepared for every eventuality. My shoes split tomorrow bank account, that kind of thing, Tom Moore's. And but for me, the idea of preparation is not enticing. I'm kind of like a last minute kind of guy of, we need to plan to do this. And I'm kind of like, yeah, but there's something good on TV right now. Or, there's something more interesting that I can be doing. And, the kind of preparation is not enticing. There are those people who love to make lists. See, I'm speaking to the right crowd here. There's people who love to make lists. But there's a difference between making a list and actually completing your list. Yeah? But the idea of preparation is not that enticing. The idea of doing something is really enticing, like going on a holiday or, going certain places or doing certain things or getting married or, all of these things are really enticing in terms of it's exciting to do, but the preparation before doesn't seem that enticing. Some of us girls who are planning weddings are starting to realize that there is some stresses involved with planning a wedding. Getting a few grunts at me here. I'm kind of the guy who I want to do the minimal amount of preparation. I heard a story of a guy who was getting married, and he literally went out suit shopping for his suits the night before the wedding. The shops shut at 9 o'clock. He went out at 8 o'clock. My kind of guy. I like that guy. But in life, preparation is so important. I've come to know in my life I do a lot of waiting, but not a lot of preparing. I'm waiting for the right circumstance. I'm waiting for the right moment. I'm waiting for this rather than preparing for what God has for me. You know, many times in my life I've been waiting for the interview day, but I haven't prepared for the interview. I waited for the wedding day, but I'm not prepared for the marriage. So many people, we wait for something to happen, but we actually don't prepare for what God has for us. There's this great quote by Benjamin Franklin. It'll come up on the screen. And it says this: by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. I think that's so true, because if we don't prepare, then actually when a circumstance or a situation comes in our life, that we're kind of just reacting to it on the fly. We're just reacting to it in the moment, and we don't know what our response will be. How do we know how we're going to handle that situation, or how we're going to do that, because we've not prepared ourselves for it? We've not prepared ourselves. But actually in preparation, we predetermine our response to our situation. That things are going to come in life. See, Jesus said this, that in this life you'll have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And so we have to realize that things are going to happen in life. It's not all going to be rosy, and it's not all going to be like, floating on a cloud for the rest of our life. We're not just going to float around life, but actually there are going to be situations, there are going to be things that are going to happen in our life. But if we prepare right, preparing that actually, hey, when this comes, this is my response, that actually I'm standing in what God has for me. You see, I've come to realize this, that actually there are things that are going to come. I know that at times greed is going to come. I'm going to be wanting more, or I'm going to be wanting that. But today I can prepare my response for that moment and decide, no, I'm not going to go after greed, because I'm a generous person. That's not the thing I'm called to. That lust may come in my life, but actually today I can begin to prepare a response that says, no, that's not where I'm going, because I'm faithful and that's what I'm called to do. And so today I have to prepare right now for the purpose of God. I have to prepare my heart and prepare now for the purpose of God. See, there's power in preparation. See, King Rehoboam, or I might just call him King R, did evil. And it didn't say that he did evil because he set out to do evil. He did evil because he had not prepared his heart to seek God. He had not prepared his heart to seek God. He'd not prepared his heart to actually respond right in those situations that came, because he had not set his heart on seeking God. Have you ever asked yourself the question, how did I end up here? How did I get here in this moment? How did I end up in this situation? How did I end up in this moment? And many times we end up in those moments and those situations because we've neglected to seek God in our lives. We've not prepared our hearts to seek God. We've not prepared our hearts to go after what God has for us. You see, we should never assume the health of our heart. I never want to assume the health of my heart. that all the time I want to prepare my heart to seek after God. That I want to prepare myself and my heart to seek after God. There may be situations that come that are out of our control, and we would never prepare for those situations. But actually, if I've got a heart that is seeking after God, that even in those moments where I might not have this predetermined response, but I'm seeking after God, I know that God will give me wisdom and guidance in those moments to know the right situation and the right response in those moments, if my heart is prepared to seek after God. So I never want to assume the health of my heart. I always want to be keeping my heart healthy. I never want to say, oh, I'm healthy, my heart's healthy. No, I want to be saying, I'm continually making my heart healthy. I'm continually going after the things that God has for me. And I want to prepare it so I can receive what God gives. So I can receive everything that God gives. I've grown up in church and been in church all my life, and I was the first member of this church. I have a plaque on my wall at home that says that, signed by our pastors. It says Mum and Dad on it. And I was there at the first service, and I contributed enormously to that first service. And I shouted the preacher down by crying a lot. And I wasn't happy with some of the message and some of that. Literally, the first service was me and Mum and Dad in a front room. And I was there. But sometimes in my life, people have looked at me and thought, it's okay. Especially in church, it's okay because Nathan is from a family that have been in church all their life. That Nathan, should have it all together and should have everything together. Yet I can't assume the health of my own heart. You see, this is not hereditary. Faith is not hereditary. The health of my heart is not hereditary. You see, I don't know if you know this, but King Rehoboam, is the grandson of King David. Now, here's what God said about King David. That this is a man after my own heart. There's the heart of King David. And yet, 2 generations later, King Rehoboam, the grandson of King David, does evil because he's not prepared his heart to seek God. You see, it's not hereditary. It's not even in any case, passed down from someone. It's my responsibility to prepare my heart for everything that God has for me. It's my responsibility, and I have the power to prepare my heart for what God has. We have the power to prepare our heart for what God has for us. As a church, as a leadership team, we prepare the heart of the church for what God has for us. We've just been away for a few days praying and thinking and talking and planning and doing a whole load of work around the church. And all of that is to prepare the heart of the church to be healthy for the next season that God has, so that we can receive everything that God has for us. And I don't know where you're positioned tonight, but maybe the question isn't, what's the health of my heart? The question is, am I actually preparing my heart for what God has for me? Or have I begun to neglect what the heart of what I need to do? Have I begun to neglect my heart? Do I need to begin to prepare it now, because I have the power to prepare my heart? We're not called to live on the sidelines, just kind of like, we'll just float in and float out and live on the side. No, we're called to prepare our hearts for everything that God has for us. He has incredible plans for you, and you have the power to begin to do that power of God to prepare our hearts for what God has to give. See, Jesus talks about this in Matthew 13. He talks about the condition of our heart. And I love that he makes it fairly simple, because in those days he just talked in stories. And he tells stories of, things that they would know about. And they know about farming, and they know about sowing seeds, and they know about all of this kind of stuff, and they know about that. And here's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, here's the condition of our heart. Here's the condition of our heart. You see, the first thing to recognize is this, that actually the seed is not up for debate. The seed is good. The seed is good. That's not up for debate. But it's a moment to check our heart. Where's the seed falling? Where's the seed falling? And so Jesus is addressing a crowd, and many of them would be unsure of who he is. They wouldn't fully know who he is. They might think he's a good teacher, or they might have other opinions of him, and they may have other thoughts of him. But he's addressing this crowd, this diverse crowd of many different people, and he's saying, here, I'm going to give you some thoughts about your heart. I'm going to give some thoughts about our hearts, because we have to begin to prepare them just like a farmer prepares the soil. Just like a farmer prepares the soil for the seed. And so the first kind of soil, or first thing that the seed falls on, is the path. And the path wouldn't be like our paths or pathways or, curbs. I used to love playing Kirby as a kid. Kirby, one of the greatest games. Feel sorry for the kids now who don't know what that is. You see, some of them are asking each other the question, what is Kirby? We're going to do it at youth. We're going to have a big Kirby night. We're going to have Kirby Olympics. All of that kind of stuff. But it wouldn't be like that. This path would have been where the farmer would have walked. And so it was trodden ground. It was made hard because the farmer just walked on it. It was trampled on. It was the ground that was trampled on. It was still soil, but it was trampled on. You see, but this soil is not beyond repair. That actually farmers many times would walk on this, and then they'd plow that part of the soil to get it ripe and ready for the seed, and then would walk on another part. You see, for many of us, we felt like our heart has been trodden on. That things have come against us, and it feels like our heart has got hard. That actually all of a sudden it feels like, nothing can get into my heart. But actually we have to begin to plow that kind of heart with the plow of forgiveness. The plow of forgiveness. I love, in church we have this saying that's come from a message from Paul, and it says this: forgive everyone, everything, every day. Forgive everyone, everything, every day. Because if I hold bitterness and I hold anger and I hold all of those things in my heart, all of a sudden, because it feels like that stuff is treading on my heart, I'll become hard of heart. And then all of a sudden the seed gets scattered and I'm beginning to take it, but all of a sudden it gets scorched by the sun. It gets scorched by circumstance. It gets scorched by situations, because my heart has become hard, because it feels like it's been trodden on, because I've allowed that stuff to infect my heart. You see, I found this many times, even in my own life, where it's not even been my gripe, as you would call it, with someone else. It's been someone else's gripe with someone else that have talked to me about it. And then all of a sudden, I've begun to have a gripe with that person, or I've begun to have that, and I've needed to actually forgive them, because all of a sudden, I've allowed that to infect my heart. Whereas actually, I want to forgive everyone, everything, every day. That they may not have even done anything wrong, or they may not even know that they've done something wrong. But I'm going to make a stance that I'm going to forgive everyone, everything, every day. That actually in moments where I may even feel offended or feel like someone's done wrong to me, I'm just going to forgive everyone, everything, every day. I'm going to plow my heart with a plow of forgiveness. Because that's what God wants. But here's the hard thing. It's not just a one-time thing. It has to happen continually. Has to happen continually. You see, I'm not going to assume the health of my heart. I'm going to keep plowing that with forgiveness all the time. All the time. It's not just a one-time thing. It's all the time. The second place that the seed falls is the rocky places. The rocky places. I kind of thought about this and thought, well, this place, the seed has a desire to grow. For many of us, we have a desire to grow in life. We have a desire to grow. But the problem is that this is shallow. It's shallow and it gets scorched by the sun, and there's not enough soil and the roots can't go deep and all of that. And sometimes that's because things happen in our world. Rocky places, maybe people have left and people have bailed, or people have walked out on the things that actually, that we feel called to, that they've even left and bailed on us as people. And it can become hard because we can allow our heart to become rocky. That we want to receive, we have this desire to receive from God, but it becomes hard because actually these things have taken root in our heart. You see, following Jesus can be tough at times. And for many people, because this happens in their heart, they follow Jesus and they follow after Jesus, and all of a sudden it gets tough and they end up bailing. Or maybe even committing to church and church life, and all of a sudden, these things have happened, and maybe someone left or someone said something, and all of a sudden it's become a rocky place, and all of a sudden it's got tough, and we decide, no, not for me anymore, I'm gone. But here's what we have to do. We have to plow our heart with the plow of trust. The plow of trust. You see, here's the incredible thing, is that Jesus has never let anyone down. So he's not going to start with you. That has to be my stance point in preparing my heart, that Jesus won't let me down. That whatever situation I face, that Jesus won't let me down. That whatever's going on in my world, that Jesus is not going to let me down. But actually, I believe that God is for me. There's a great encounter where Jesus encounters someone and says, do you now believe? And he says, yes, I believe, but help my unbelief. Wow. Maybe that has to be our stance point. But Jesus, yes, I believe, and help my unbelief. That's my stance point, that actually when things seem to be getting in, I believe, Jesus, help my unbelief. Help that thing, because I'm deciding I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to trust in God, and I'm going to stand in God, stand in what Jesus has, because he's never let anyone down, and he's not going to start with me. I'm going to plow my heart with the plow of trust, that actually whatever I may face, whatever I may go through, that actually I'm going to trust in God, believing that he has the best for me. That's how I can begin to prepare my heart for all that God has for me. Because otherwise, when we walk in unbelief and moments where we're not sure of trusting God, there's seed being scattered, but it's not able to take full root. And the third place that the seed falls is among the thorns. Among the thorns. And for so many of us, we have hearts that want to take seed, and we hear the word on a Sunday, or we hear it in the week, or we read our Bible and we believe it, but then we have a heart that is burdened with fear and anxiety and worry. You see, this is different to shallow, because actually I'm receiving the word, but it's a moment where I'm scared to step out into what God has for me. I'm scared to step out into what God has for me. It can even happen in the church, that we have fear, worry, and anxiety about what others may think, and I'm scared to step out. Even in the church, we can be scared to do those things, and we end up seeking after other things to try and get our fulfillment and to try and get life from other things. We end up trying to seek after other things to fill our heart with actually what God, rather than what God has for us. But we have to begin to plow our heart with the plow of peace. The plow of peace. The peace is the person of Jesus Christ. And peace is the person of Jesus in your life. It's the person of Jesus in your life. You see, the Bible likens Jesus to the Prince of Peace. To the Prince of Peace. And sometimes we can turn up to church, we can hear the word, and we can go out and we can be determined that this time it's going to be different, this time it's going to be different, and this time I'm going to step out. But all of a sudden, these weeds and thorns begin to choke out the word of God in our lives. And all of a sudden, when we just see a little bit of fruit and when we just see a little bit of what God has for us, all of a sudden it gets choked out by these thorns and these weeds in our life because we're fearful, worry and anxious about things. But actually, we can know peace that transcends all understanding, that goes beyond understanding. Have you ever met one of those people who is just like annoyingly peaceful all the time? Like they're just content and peaceful all the time, that it's kind of annoying at times. Well, I want to be that person. I want to know Jesus' peace in my life. That actually, I want to be one of those people who people go, how can you be so peaceful in this situation? Jesus, because I know Jesus in my life. How can you be so peaceful going through that situation? Because I know Jesus. It's not because I'm trying to get recognition of something. It's Jesus. It's just pointing people to Jesus. I want to be one of those people. We have to begin to plow our heart with the plow of peace, person of Jesus Christ in our life, so that we can know his grace, his love, and we can receive everything that he has for us. You see, I want to encourage you tonight. Don't let your heart become hard. Don't let it become hard. Don't let it become hard that actually seed goes out and it's not able to take root because our heart has become hard. Don't sit on the sidelines. Don't just kind of sit on the sidelines and wait for the moment and try and be waiting, but actually be preparing your heart for what God has for you, for what God wants you to do. You see, I believe there's some desires and dreams in this place. Desires and dreams of maybe leadership, and desires and dreams to do something in business, and desires and dreams to even set up a business, desires and dreams that go beyond anything, but we've just been waiting for the right moment. We've just been waiting for the right moment. Well, what about today you just begin to prepare right now for what God has for you? I believe you can prepare your heart for everything that God has for you. Don't sit on the sidelines and do that. Begin to plow your heart with the plow of forgiveness so that you can know his grace in your life, so that you can know him all your life, that your heart feels like it's been trampled on. Begin to plow it with forgiveness. Forgive everyone, everything, every day. Begin to do that. Begin to plow your heart with the plow of trust that feels like it's not growing and people have left and bailed, but I'm going to trust Jesus today that he has so much for me. Beginning to plow my heart with the plow of peace that actually I'm not going to be worryful or anxious or fearful anymore, but I'm going to actually have this peace in my life that is Jesus in my life, so I can walk into all that God has for me, all that he has for me. Begin to plow your heart. Begin to prepare it. You see, I want to finish by saying this, that the Bible says in these verses, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering. You see, I believe tonight, God is just going, here's some seed, here's some seed. He's not waiting for your heart to be perfect. He's just going, here's some seed, here's some seed. It's coming your way. It's coming your way, and it'll continually come your way. He'll keep scattering the seed, and he'll keep doing that. My job is to begin to prepare my heart so I can receive all that God has for me, receive everything that he has for me. That he's not coming and he's not being cautious and going, hey, Vicky's got her heart right, so I can drop a seed there. But you know what, George, I'm not so sure about, so I'm going to keep hold of this seed. No, he's just throwing the seed, and he's going, hey, if your heart's prepared, you can begin to receive this. Let our declaration be that, God, I'm going to receive your seed. I'm going to prepare my heart right so that I can receive everything that you have for me. I'm going to prepare my heart, because the seed is not up for debate. So where's your heart at? Not what's the health of your heart. Have you begun to prepare your heart? Have you begun to prepare your heart? Let me encourage you. Prepare your heart, church, because God has so much more